Welcome to our course about mobile elevated work platforms. When you can't move work to ground level, mobile elevated work platforms, such as aerial and scissor lifts, may be an appropriate solution. Each type of platform has its own unique characteristics and safety strategies of which you need to be aware. You'll receive hands-on training about the site and specific equipment you will use from your employer, but this course will lay the groundwork by giving you an overview of some universal considerations for mobile elevated work platforms. By the end of this course, you will be able to recognize types of mobile elevated work platforms and their uses, know how to prepare for safe mobile elevated work platform use, recall mobile elevated work platform characteristics and safe operation principles, and know safe practices to use when working on mobile elevated work platforms. An aerial lift is designed and manufactured to raise personnel to an elevated work position on a platform supported by masts or booms. Aerial lifts include extensible or articulating boom platforms, aerial ladders, vertical towers, or mast lifts, and a combination of any such devices. Scissor lifts are designed to lift larger loads and provide more workspace than other aerial lifts. They are not designed for lifting extremely heavy materials. Scissor lifts are useful in manufacturing and industrial work since they generally provide the most space for multiple workers on the same platform. Most scissor lifts only lift straight up and down, though some allow you to shift or extend the platform horizontally a short distance. Sometimes workers need to work at heights in areas that are already in use, such as aisles. In these cases, they may employ vertical mast lifts. These lifts have a very small footprint, meaning they take up less floor space than aerial and scissor lifts. Like scissor lifts, vertical mast lifts raise and lower personnel straight up and down, but vertical mast lifts have multi-stage masts. Drag each characteristic onto the appropriate type of mobile elevated work platform. Consider what your task requires and then select the appropriate lift. For example, if multiple workers need to be on the platform, a scissor lift may be suitable. Remember that indoor mobile elevated work platforms are meant to be operated on flat, regular surfaces. They are not designed for rough outdoor terrain and can easily tip in this environment. This is an important warning. Operating an indoor solid tire slab lift on outdoor rough terrain is a common contributor to serious tip-over incidents. Choose outdoor or rough terrain mobile elevated work platforms for outdoor environments. Know the capacity limit of any lift you use and do not exceed it. You can find capacity information on the equipment or in the owner-operator manual, which should always be in the equipment. Do not rig materials to be lifted from the structure of the mobile elevated work platform, as this can cause serious balance and capacity issues. A personnel lift is not a crane. Workers need training about the specific equipment they will use and their work site's hazards and safety considerations before they use the equipment. Due to its potential dangers, only trained and authorized persons should operate mobile elevated work platforms. You do not want to discover problems with a mobile elevated work platform when you are already on it and in the air. That's why it's important that you follow the manufacturer's instructions to perform a pre-use inspection of the vehicle and the lift components. Only use lifts that have passed inspection. Issues such as leaking fluids, hissing or grinding sounds, and erratic movement are cause for concern. If you discover an unsafe condition, tag the lift out of service and report the issue to the appropriate person immediately. Survey the work area where you will use the mobile elevated work platform for overhead hazards and electrical lines. Unforeseen electrical and mechanical hazards often become apparent when raising equipment. This effort to find and address potential hazards may be referred to as a risk assessment. Note where there is machinery and moving equipment. Be aware of pedestrians, motorists, and work activities going on around the area. Look for material and debris that may impact your work or travel. Check for soft ground, floor conditions, and drop-offs. Be aware of tip-over risks and floor capacities. For example, plywood hole covers are almost always too weak to support mobile elevated work platforms, and drops of more than a few centimeters can cause equipment to tip. Consider any slopes or grades in the area. Check the manufacturer's documentation to determine if you can safely travel on or across them. Make sure you have adequate lighting so that you can see on and around the mobile elevated work platform. Address hazards by taking precautions such as placing barricades, posting signs, using insulated tools and equipment, de-energizing powered equipment or utilities, and performing lockout-tagout as needed. What should you do if you discover something potentially hazardous about a mobile elevated work platform during pre-use inspection? Mobile elevated work platforms are more susceptible to tipping over without stabilizers or outriggers extended. Some equipment is designed so that you cannot lift any load without stabilizers in place. It is generally unsafe to use mobile elevated work platforms in gusty or sustained high winds of 24 to 40 kilometers or 15 to 25 miles per hour. Remember that wind conditions aloft may differ from those on the ground. The manufacturer provides guidance about when and how to stabilize the equipment and what wind conditions may make the equipment unsafe to operate. Use fall protection such as travel restraint or fall arrest when you are on mobile elevated work platforms. Aerial lifts require short lanyards because workers can be catapulted out. These lanyards can prevent workers from falling out of the equipment. Longer lanyards can keep fallen workers from hitting the ground. Check for manufacturer guidance about required fall protection. Be aware that people who need fall protection must receive special training on the subject and equipment from their employers. Please be aware that you can be injured, even if the fall arrest system functions flawlessly. The goal of the system is to reduce the severity of injuries and potentially save lives. Check for manufacturer guidance about designated tie-off points. Generally, guardrails are too weak to use as tie-off points. Do not tie off on them unless that manufacturer identifies a point specifically designed for this purpose. Do not connect your lanyard to external overhead structures. If you forget to disconnect, you may be pulled from the lift when it is moving or being lowered. Contacting overhead obstructions can result in falls and tips, as well as electrical shock, crushing injuries or lacerations. Aerial lifts should always be lowered prior to traveling. Some scissor lifts allow for movement short distances with the platform raised. However, as a best practice, always lower the platform for better stability, easier avoidance of overhead obstructions, and increased visibility of ground level obstructions. Survey the area before lifting again. Operators should pay attention to their surroundings when making small adjustments to the equipment's position. Look in the direction you are moving. To prevent tipping, always travel with the counterweight upgrade. Follow the manufacturer's guidance about turning while you are on graded or sloped surfaces. Do not travel with people in the platform or bucket unless the equipment is specifically designed for this type of operation. Should you move mobile elevated work platforms with the lifts raised or lowered? Check your shoes and the ladder rungs. Clean off any grease, mud, or other slippery substances before ascending. Maintain 3 points of contact when climbing access ladders. This means keeping both hands and one foot, or both feet and one hand, on the ladder. Always close and secure the chain or gate after boarding. Barricade the area that is under overhead activity. This buffers elevated workers from equipment traffic and protects those on the ground from tools or materials that may drop. It may be difficult to see what is at ground level while you are operating at heights. Communicate your plans to use mobile elevated work platforms so that others expect your presence. Use horns and other signaling devices to make your presence known. Place tools, equipment, and materials on the platform or in the bucket prior to climbing. You can also wait until you have climbed onto the platform and then lift or hoist these items up. It is easy to trip over clutter on working surfaces, so observe good housekeeping practices. Clean up as you go, and only take as much material or as many tools as you need for your immediate work activities. Operate within equipment capacity ratings. You can find capacity information on equipment decals and in the owner-operator manual, which should always be in the equipment. Avoid stepping up on guardrails, tow boards, materials, ladders, or equipment while you are inside the platform or bucket. Doing so puts you at risk of falling over the guardrails. Instead of leaning out of the platform or bucket, reorient the lift to reach what you need. Avoid exiting the platform or bucket until it is lowered. Remember that mobile elevated work platforms are for working at heights, not for moving people. If you must exit at heights, check company policies and manufacturer instructions. Follow the recommended procedures, which may include wearing a fall protection harness and establishing a tie-off anchor point before dismounting. Be warned that you are immediately subject to the risk of falling if you exit the lift onto a place without a proper floor and railings. Remember that you can be injured, even if the fall arrest system functions flawlessly. Your employer must have a rescue plan that describes what to do if someone falls. Always remove the keys from the mobile elevated work platform when you leave it unattended to prevent it from being operated by someone who is untrained or unauthorized. What should you remove from the ladder rungs of mobile elevated work platforms before you ascend? You should now be able to recognize types of mobile elevated work platforms and their uses, Know how to prepare for safe mobile elevated work platform use. Recall mobile elevated work platform characteristics and safe operation principles, and know safe practices to use when working on mobile elevated work platforms.